I want to finish up a little bit on this James Kirk Wall. Love a guy who is proud that he was named after a starship captain. But he is an atheist, and he has a fundamental disagreement with me that I talk about, that rights come from God. And he is trying to make this case that rights don't come from God, and he is trying to do it by saying, that
look at the laws that have changed over time.
Changing. God wanted you to drink or not drink.
Mind?
Those are laws. Those are not rights. Those are laws. Mm-hmm. He says some claim acknowledgement that laws come from mankind equals submissive compliance to whatever laws people make. Actually, the opposite of true. Since laws come from people, they can be protested and changed by people if they are perceived to be wrong. Yes, James, but you're confusing laws with rights. If rights come from people, then they can be taken away. For instance, in China, the people have rights. We know it. They're living in abject poverty and slavery of a system. And we know that if they come over here, they have the same rights that we have. If they are over there, if you were over there, James, if suddenly, let's say there was a transporter, and you could say, beam me to China, and it beamed you over to China, you would say, but wait, I have rights. No.
This man doesn't recognize those.
Yes, they would say, where do you think you are, America? No, we have laws, and this man who's in charge, he's the one who says who has rights and who doesn't have rights. You have no rights.
That man, like you, James, doesn't believe that rights come from God, so you don't have
any place to go.
You have
no place to go. There's no place to go because there is no higher authority than the man in charge. So, would you say, James, that the people in China have a right to be free? Do they have a right to be free? Do they have a right to speak their mind? Do they have a right to protest? Do they have a right to not have their doors broken down in the middle of the night and hauled off to jail?
He would have to say no.
You would have to say no.
Because men in China have decided no.
Right.
No.
Correct. So it's not about taking away your rights. If you're looking at all laws come from God, well, then you are talking about a theocracy. If you're talking about all rights come from God, you're talking about freedom. Because then man cannot touch those rights. And that is really important for not only James T. Kirk, the Starship Enterprise captain who slept with the green lady, and also is apparently now an atheist. Mm-hmm. If it is James, not T. Kirk, but James Kirk Wall, the atheist. You would have to understand then that we don't disagree with each other. If I was saying that all laws come from God, then you would have a complaint with me, but I'm not. Laws come from man, and laws change. And that's why you want to have as few of those as you possibly can. You don't want to have pages and pages and pages of regulation, because those come from man. But you and I both know, whether you live here or whether you live in China, people have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And those are not changeable. And James, who gives you those rights? It is not man. Now, you can call it a space octopus. You can call it the grand universe. But you know it to be true. Whether you believe in God or not, you know it to be true. No man is born a slave. If they are, then what's wrong with slavery? What is wrong with enslaving somebody else? If men are not born with the right to be free, what is wrong with slavery? But we all instinctively know that all men are born free. They are born and created equal. Now, what you do after that is up to you. So, James, you have a fundamental misunderstanding here. And he goes on to quote, I can't believe it. He said, He says, today at the dinner table, ask your kids where your rights come from. I have rights, you know. Really? From where? Push them. Teach them a lesson. He's quoting me. Because if you don't push them now, they'll be pushed and shoved and shot by religious fanatics later. Okay, well, maybe the ones who are shooting people are the religious fanatics in the Middle East that our current collectivist government that is denying God is siding with. So, no. But your kids may be shot by religious fanatics or blown up that believe that their laws, Sharia law, that's not rights, that's Sharia law, that all laws are to be dictated by God. That's not what I believe. That's not what the Christians that I know believe. They believe all rights are. Laws are done by man. He said he wants to end it with a quote from George Washington. The foundation of our empire was not laid on a gloomy age of ignorance and superstition, but an epoch when the rights of mankind were better understood and more clearly defined than any other period. George Washington. Bizarre to end. No, it's not. I mean, ignorant to end this with a quote from George Washington of all of the founders to end with. Because George Washington also said, James Kirk Wall, it is impossible to rightly govern the world without God and the Bible. George Washington. The propitious smile of heaven can never be expected on a nation that disregards the eternal rules of order and right which heaven itself has ordained. George Washington. What students would learn in American schools above all is the religion of Jesus Christ. That would be George Washington. It is the duty of all nations to acknowledge his providence, the providence of Almighty God, to obey his will, to be grateful for his benefits, and humbly implore his protection and favors. George Washington. I could go on, James Kirk. But I know you have, planets and stuff to go visit and places to explore that no man has gone before. It would make a lot of sense if you would look things up and you would look up the meaning of rights and the definition of rights and the definition of laws. I highly recommend, James Wall, that you would read our founding fathers and read on what they actually believed and look at it in some other place other than Atheist Illustrated, or if that exists. I don't know where you're getting your information. But actually look into it with an open mind, because atheists can come to an understanding and be totally cool with natural rights. Nature's God and nature's rights. Different than man's laws. And I mean, if you are just a guy who is named after a Star Trek character, and that's as deep as it goes, well, then I understand. I mean, Gene Roddenberry was an atheist, and but the men who founded this nation were not atheists. So you keep your prime directive. I'll hold fast to the divinely inspired United States Constitution and rights, where I know the difference between the two.